Hey, welcome to the Lovecraft Easing podcast. No guest today, as we do deliberately sometimes. I'm Mike Davis, chief cook and bottle washer at Lovecraft Easing. Bridget is here.
Hello,
So
I am here.
you are here. For those of you who don't know, in the show notes, I keep a list of uh, each episode's co-panelists with a link to what they do. So, uh, Rick, you said you had a surprise for me when you came on,
I do.
and surprise
Yeah.
guest, and it's Pete Rawlett.
Yes.
Yay.
I was thinking just at the back of my mind how cool that would be if you guys did that,
Yeah.
but I knew Pete had a busy schedule, so I didn't want to suggest it. So I'm really happy to see both of you together. So
I'm happy to be here.
so you're in New York and the surrounding areas for what, family and book buying? Is that right?
So my wife does this whole thing with points and miles on credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
and she booked a trip to New York City and Philadelphia to visit New York and see my mom who moved back up here. And I figured I'm 99% of the way there. Why not come see Rick?
Yeah, that's great.
Very cool.
So for those of you who are listening later, I'm looking at Pete and Rick both in Rick's office. This is really cool. So I assume by now everybody knows what Pete does and Rick does. Rick, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm a Pulp magazine collector and writer.
And Pete has written a lot of books as well. What's your next book coming up, Pete?
I don't have anything scheduled right now.
About time to do another collection, isn't it?
It is. I've got one sitting out there having somebody look at it.
Oh,
We've
that's good.
also got a kids book that we're working on, and I've got a bunch of stories in the hopper, waiting for acceptance.
So before we went on air, and I said, let's just go on air and talk about this or finish talking about this. We were talking about Star Trek. So Star Trek Below Decks is going to go live action, or there's going to be a live action. Um, yeah,
Crossover.
yeah, crossover or version.
It's going to be a crossover with
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New World.
You're kidding.
Boiler and
It's just a crossover episode.
Boiler and the Chief.
Just an episode, or is it a series?
Just an episode.
Oh, okay. It's still really cool though.
Yeah, so it's not only crossing the shows, and the shows are set in two different time periods as well. So there's that. And then of course one's animated and one's live.
And Strange New World is about to drop what, season 3, episode 1?
Season two is
Season.
dropping like on the 15th or 16th.
Okay. All right.
One problem I had with the overall series, they all had episodes, but it was just basically the same plot to destroy the Federation. The way Picard ended, the way Prodigy ended. It was a middle episode for Lower Decks. It's basically taking over starships, a computer, and turning against each other.
Right.
Hmm.
No, it's a good point. That is the cliffhanger for that was the whole thing behind Prodigy.
What is Prodigy?
Prodigy is an animated version of Star Trek. It's a kind of sequel to Voyager. In some of the characters, Chakotay is missing with an experimental ship, but you don't find that out till later. But and Janeway is a main character. It was made in cooperation with Nickelodeon, and it ran there first.
So no swearing.
No swearing.
Yeah. All right. Well, as I said, no guest today, but I think we've got a lot to talk about. Um, Pete, how's the book buying going in New York?
You know, so I'm kind of bound by some issues. Is that I am we only took carry-on luggage,
Mm.
and so I'm very limited to what I can buy. So I'm being super selective. Um, I was in book Zoom, and I picked up a book, and it was like, oh, I know this book. This book is $100 book. How much did they want for it? They want $100 for it. So, yep, I still got the eye, but the prices are exactly where they need to be in New York City, and I don't have any trade credit here, so there's no getting the price down. Um, I did find a copy of Jim Medick's Cyberpunk Trek for $4, which runs anywhere from $40 to $100. But it wasn't in the greatest of shape, and I'm not gonna. It's nothing I desperately need to bring home.
I suppose if you found something that you really, really wanted, you could medium mail it to yourself.
Yes, that is the option my wife and I have discussed.
Hmm. So, speaking of books, our friend Kelly Young has written a book called Infernal Combustion. And I'm kidding about that. He's a good friend. And it's a chat book. He said that he asked me if I was going to talk about it. I said, of course. And he wanted me to tell the listeners that they only have 50 copies left and it's $10 flat. That's the thing he kept saying. That includes postage.
Wow.
So to continental United States, unfortunately, but that's how it unfortunately is for to have free postage. Here is and I've forgotten how to do everything here. Screen share. Oh, there we go. Share screen. There's the cover. Strange Eons presents Infernal Combustion by K.L. Young. Kelly Young. Illustrations by Ben Hansen. So,
Nice.
yeah, that's a nice looking cover.
Looks like a cross
Very
between
cool.
the Opera and the Joker.
So I'll have the link in the show notes. I don't think the 50 that are left, I think you started with 200. The 50 that are left will be lasting too long. So
And that's a chapbook.
yes,
Okay.
I should say I believe so. Yeah, it says chapbook. Sorry.
Yeah. Even though with shipping these days, even that's $5.
Yeah, that's a damn good deal. So, and I think they're signed, but don't don't quote me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's that. And then here we see Pete and Rick there visiting Rick. And then this last Monday, my wife and I had lunch with the Bryn Marks.
Which is me for people
Yes, that
that
is
aren't
you.
tracking that.
Sorry. Just assume
They don't
everybody
know
knew
me
your
as
last
that.
name.
They just know me as Bridget.
Yeah. Bridget Bryn Mawr and her tag along, Mike Bryn Mawr.
Yeah.
So there's us on the screen if you're watching, with my son on the left there, my wife and I, and Bridget and Mike Bryn Mawr. So photo by Mike Bryn Mawr. So that was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
It was
So,
fun.
yeah. So which brings up a question. You were in Dallas for Frightmare?
Yes, Texas Frightmare weekend.
Yeah, I didn't realize, otherwise I would have gone too, but we could maybe all go next year as when you can make it.
We should
So,
definitely make a plan for next year. Because it was really awesome.
yeah, tell us a
Um,
little bit about Frightmare. What were some
so
of your favorite things?
it
What went on?
it's been going on for a while, and it was in one of the hotels there in Dallas, but this was the first year that they had it at the Irving Convention Center, which was a huge improvement. The crowd control was so much better. It was a much more enjoyable experience. But the highlight of that particular con was the celebrities that they were able to get. They had John Carpenter, and we got a photo op with him, which was awesome.
Well,
They
that's
had
all you're going to say about that? Because there's
But
more.
yeah, I know. Yeah, like because we're waiting in line for forever to do this photo op. And as we get to the front of the line, like Mike just starts moving. They're like, okay, go ahead and go in. So Mike starts going in and he just totally ignores Mike and he looks at me and he's like, come here, darling. So I have that in my brain forever of John Carpenter's voice saying, come here, darling.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we did the photo op. It was super cool. They had both of the Mike Myers actors there. They had a bunch of the actors from The Thing there, except for Kurt Russell. But they had a whole bunch of the actors from Killer Clowns from Outer Space there, from Sleepaway Camp. Yeah, one of the better cons I've been to as far as celebrities go, for sure. It was really good. The panels were really good. I saw a movie on Saturday night called The Quantum Devil, which was quite Lovecraftian, and in a tongue-in-cheek, not even trying to hide the cliches kind of way. It was amazing for that reason, because they just kind of embraced the clichéness of stuff, and it was pretty great. I found it entertaining anyway. I would, is it Lovecraftian high art? I don't know. I mean, what is that really? But I enjoy.
You don't know Lovecraftian art, but you know what you like.
Because I mean, there was a moment where it was just like, oh, the other dimension opens and there's tentacles everywhere, but it was just like they didn't even try to like make it something that it wasn't. They just leaned into it and it was awesome. It was very, very enjoyable. And it had a good ending. I was pretty amused by the ending. So I'm not sure when or where that's gonna be showing or streaming because it was kind of a exclusive thing that the Alamo Draft House hosted with the con. So that was really cool.
Gotta be better than the deep ones.
Oh, yes, much better. I would have to say. So this movie was like, it started out kind of Haunting of Hill House / House on Haunted Hill, mysterious invitation, but it's scientists. And then they're trying to go into another dimension. So there's kind of like this event horizon vibe. And then, there's ulterior motives about all of that. I'll just say that. But it was pretty great.
What were some of the panels? Oh, sorry, go on.
No, that's okay. I really enjoyed the Mike Myers panel with James and Nick Castle. That was really fascinating. Just them talking about playing, the character of Mike Myers, and James in particular is very spiritual person, and he talked about Michael Myers being not the personification of evil, but something that's more a personification of nature, like something that just is above everything. That's just a natural force that can't be qualified or
When you
explained.
told me this at lunch, it made me think of on the flip side, Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, it was very philosophical of just he is neither good nor evil. He just is. But as far as you're talking about him killing a bunch of humans, for our perception, he's evil.
Right.
But he talked about the power of masks and putting on the mask to become Mike Myers, and how his fiance came on set one time and would not even come near him and was completely terrified of him once he put the mask on, just because of how he embodied the character once he put the mask on, and talked about that in such a spiritual way, like about, rituals for centuries and the power of putting on masks and stuff. It was really fascinating. I went to definitely a different place than I would have thought on the surface going to, Mike Myers panel. It was really fascinating. He's a fascinating person. And yeah, that was probably one of the panels I enjoyed the most. I did go to John Carpenter's panel, which was really short. But somebody asked him, they said, okay, I've been waiting 43 years to ask this question. Is child's a thing at the end of the And John Carpenter says, I can't tell you that. And he says, yes, you can. And he's like, no, really, I can't because, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there may or may not be a sequel.
Can
So
you
then we're all like, what? There might be a thing too. He's like, well, we've talked about it. It's like, yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, that could mean there's going to be a sequel in 50 years. Who knows what that actually means?
we've talked
But
about it might mean that they were having drinks late one night. They all got drunk and said, wouldn't it be cool if we did this?
yeah, they talked about it. Yeah. Like, what does that even know? Because I went to Alex Winter's panel, and he was talking about Bill and Ted and how they had talked about doing a third movie for it took like 12 years for them to finally make it. So it could be kind of one of those situations.
Can you
But
imagine how
that
often
panel was
John
really
Carpenter
cool
gets
too.
that question?
Yeah, probably all the time. But
Yeah.
he was great though. He didn't take flack from anybody. Like people kept trying to be like, "Oh, you're the best director ever, and I really love your stuff." And he's like, "Stop with the fluff. Just ask me your damn question."
But
So
Brittany,
yeah, it
you
was
and
fun.
we've collected Dark Horse comics. We know that there's a really good set of sequels to the thing that Dark Horse did. I mean,
Yeah, but it's like people want to know the movie answer, I guess.
yeah, but it's funny. Dark Horse did great series for The Thing, Aliens, Predator, and Terminator, and there a lot of people overlook them, but I think that they're really good.
Yeah, yeah, amazing art too.
Yeah.
Does it identify in the comics who the thing is at the end of the thing?
Um, in the comics, both of them are human,
Ah, okay.
but
That's not
but
necessarily canon, I
right.
assume.
But the
Yeah,
thing gets out.
unofficially, officially.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a definite maybe.
But for Predator 2 was based on really heavily on the first Dark Horse Predator series, with very few changes.
Well, I'm glad to
Yeah,
hear that.
Pete. The actors from Prey were there too. You would
Oh,
have been,
really?
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, I've been having gone to several of these different horror conventions. I would say that as far as celebrities go, this is definitely one of the better ones. They all have different kind of focuses. Like um, some of the ones in California are more focused on the effects and makeup industry, which is awesome. It's just a different flavor of con.
Right.
Um, and some of them are more into like the haunted house type stuff and the haunted house industry. And this one was just a lot of celebrities, which was really cool. A lot of good celebrities, because there's a lot of cons you go to where there's like B celebrities, and that's awesome for horror movies. I mean, there's a lot of great B movies with B celebrities out there, but it's pretty rare to have this many of the, like really top horror celebrities out in one place. So that was pretty cool. Oh, and Tom Savini was there too. So yeah,
Who?
Tom Savini.
I don't know who that is.
Oh my gosh, Mike, you're fired. No, just kidding.
Take away my geek card, right? My nerd
He's,
card.
he's the special effects guy that's done tons of stuff, including like the original Friday the 13th.
Oh, okay.
It was in Dusty Dawn, right?
yes.
The guy was the pistol.
Yes.
He was a part of his clothing.
And one of the best characters in um oh in the vampire film. Yeah. He's wearing all leather in that movie. Oh my god.
John Carpenter's Vampires?
Creepshow.
No. Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh. I'm curious, did John Carpenter get any Lovecraftian questions from the audience that you remember?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's
It was a really short panel, and most people were asking fan questions. So
yeah.
Bridget, years ago, God, it had to be 20 years ago. I went into a con and all the directors and the Chiodo brothers were there. The guys who created Killer Clowns from Outer Space. So I got one of their giant posters signed by all of them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I hung it up in the hallway, as you do. over the course of my kids, my little girls growing up, they came to me about 10 years ago and said, "Dad, this scares us. Would you take it down?"
Oh no.
Yeah, I said, "Sure, okay." And then about 2 years ago, one of my teenagers came to me and said, "Dad, do you still have that Killer Clowns from Outer Space poster?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Can I have that for my room?"
That's funny.
Nice.
You're like, they have breached the fear barrier.
Yeah. One of my younger one just admitted that she's a huge slasher film fan.
That's great.
So
Oh my gosh, so I almost like one thing I would say is somebody had asked, how he came up with the theme for Halloween. And for those who don't know, my husband's a drummer. So John Carpenter said when he was a kid, his dad was a musician and had taught him a lot of musical things, and his dad had taught him to play the bongos, and so he learned to play the 5/4 pattern on the bongos, like just and then that's kind of just how he came up with the Halloween theme, like putting that on the keyboard. And of course, my husband, who's a drummer, was like, "What?" Like that. Just like instantly became more cool in his book. It's funny. It's like, oh my gosh, Halloween came from the bongos. It's great.
So you married a drummer. That's what I got out of this.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Anything else about the convention?
Um, gosh, it was so great. Those people who put it on out there, thanks for putting it in the convention center this time. It was a much more enjoyable experience and it was really well put on. And I got this cool rock horn skelly
Oh,
necklace
nice.
from Alchemy of England, which was really cool because I've never seen them in person. I've only seen their website, so that was really neat. But yeah, highly recommend.
You
I'm
guys
planning
had a
on going
smooth
next year.
trip. Everything went perfect, including lunch with Danielle and me,
Yes.
until it was time to go home.
It's how to go. No trip can be absolutely perfect, can it? So yeah, we got stuck in the DFW for overnight. That was no bueno.
But 4 times that they delayed it. That's
Yep.
amazing.
Yep. Changed gates like 3 times, delayed it a bunch of times, and then eventually they were like, we're just gonna wait until the morning. So yeah.
Huh.
Yay.
Yeah, that's fun. Spending the night by the airport gate, you know.
Yeah. But all things considered, it was an awesome trip, and I would definitely go there again. Highly recommend.
You guys think you will do it next year?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, if you guys do it, I'll do it. Yeah, for
especially
sure.
if they do it over Memorial Day weekend again, because that was really nice to be able to have that long weekend to travel.
Yeah. Well, there's a new well, I don't know if it's new actually. I don't think it is brand new. 2020. There we go. TV series called The Head, which I'm not so sure about that name, but it's set in Antarctica at the beginning of the 6 month winter. And then mayhem, things start happening. So I've watched 2 episodes of it so far. The really funny thing though was that in in the show, the very first thing they do when the summer people leave and they settle in with some popcorn and watch The Thing.
Nice.
Yeah, it's
which
pretty funny.
apparently is a real
Yeah,
thing they
it's
do.
a real tradition. So so far it's pretty good. I'm not sure if it's paranormal or not, but I almost don't see how it cannot be with what's happened so far. And so it's called The Head, set in Antarctica, and it's on HBO Max. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Max. Yeah. Uh, I've been studying marketing for about 3 decades now, and I have to say that changing the name from HBO Max to Max might be one of the dumbest marketing decisions that I have ever seen. And I love the emails that they send you because they're like all excited and they want you to be excited about it. It's exciting, and I'm like, you're changing your name. I don't care.
It is a bit confusing though too because I was logging in from HBO Max to Max because you have to download a new app for it. So I was downloading a new app and logging in, and Mike just happened to walk in and he said, "Oh, did we have Cinemax now?" I'm like, "No." So that's just even more confusing. Just call it Max. What does that even mean?
Yeah, and the app. Well, you got the brand name with HBO though. Why would you not want it?
Hmm. Right.
And the other thing, the new app on my Kindle Fire TV or on my Roku, whatever, it's not as easy to find things. It seems like they're pushing up front what they want you to watch. Um, and I hear several channels are going to, they're trying to get as much non-scripted as they can,
Hmm.
i.e., reality shows, which really aren't that real. So, but anyway, yeah, I in fact was not excited about the change, and they can't seem to understand why that wouldn't be the most exciting thing email that someone got that day. So, yeah, I don't get it.
Well, on a similar note, Netflix is now enforcing its your home network system, right?
Yeah,
But meanwhile, Amazon Prime with the Fire Stick, the whole point of that is to hold the stick and take it with you wherever you go.
right.
It's like, so are you shooting yourself in the foot there,
Be
Netflix?
interesting to see how many people unsubscribe from Netflix and Max in these next few weeks because of these things. And my as many elderly people are, my mother's on um, a limited income in her retirement, and so I do what I can. It's what you're supposed to do. And one of the things that I do is there's no reason not to is let her use our channels. You know, she's not in our house, although she soon will be when we move. But she's a building away, and I'm just waiting for her not to be able to log into Netflix. We'll see if that happens. But
Well, and like college kids, like my son doesn't live with us, but he's still, you
right,
know,
Yeah.
that's a
like
good
he
point.
doesn't need to re-sign up for everything. Just yeah, it's silly.
Yeah,
I have a friend who house sits. That's her job. Is she supposed to give up her Netflix account?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Good point.
just, yeah.
So, well, we'll see what happens with those things. Um, what is this? Oh, yeah, Harlan Guthrie. I don't know if you guys know who this is, but he's kind of been a long time listener of the show and friend of the show. But anyway, he's got an audio drama out there called Divisor. That's Deviser. And I will include, as always, the link in the show notes. But he told me about it, and I've listened to a little bit of it so far. Um, and it's actually really good so far. The episodes are about 21, 22 minutes each. Oh, here's one 27 minutes, but in that time period between 20 and 30 minutes each. Divisor is a sci-fi horror audio drama created by Harlan Guthrie. In this series, Sun wakes up aboard a spaceship bound for Earth in an effort to recolonize. What he discovers, however, will change everything he knows about his world and himself. So check that out. I'll have the Spotify link, but if you don't use Spotify, just search Divisor on your favorite um, podcast app. Deviser. So there's that. Looks like. Any of you guys seen The Boogeyman yet?
No.
I'm seeing mixed reviews. Bloody Disgusting says the Boogeyman review, a familiar grief metaphor, delivers on potent scares. So I remember when I was a kid, the first time reading that story, which I don't think the movie will be anything like it. The ending of that story is very well done, very creepy. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but although it is well past the 5-year Rollick rule.
The Rollick rule, yes.
Like, oh.
What are you looking for? Uh, did your mom ground you and you can only stay so long?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm fascinated by all the stuff that's in Rick's office.
Oh yeah. Books everywhere.
Books, books and toys, and videos. It's almost like being in my office. You know that
Oh, I'm
remember Ray
jealous.
Bradbury Presents or Ray Bradbury Theater?
Yeah.
Down the stairs,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's great.
and just like there's stuff everywhere, and it's like that. Rick has neat stuff everywhere.
He is the goat.
He is.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not gonna see it in the theater, but I actually am looking forward to seeing it. So I guess that's all I'll say because you guys haven't, it doesn't sound like you guys have read up on it at all. Oh, I haven't read up on it much. Um, so here's speaking of not seeing it in the theater, here's an article on Insider, guys. Here's the headline. Quentin Tarantino says Ryan Reynolds may earn 50 million for a Netflix movie, and I'm not sure he earns 50 million. But streaming movies don't exist in the zeitgeist. Is that how you say that word?
Yeah.
Close
It's,
enough.
yeah, it's almost like they don't even exist. Really? It's almost like they don't even exist. In other news, Tarantino yelled at someone to get off his lawn. I made that up. Uh, yeah, speaking to Deadline in an interview published Thursday, Tarantino suggested that his departure from feature filmmaking is in part because of how streaming services have drastically changed the movie industry. He said that he doesn't like working for diminishing returns and thinks it's a good time to stop making feature films because he doesn't want to have to make movies for a streaming service. Well, I would venture to tell you that most of us, big screens and flat screens are so cheap these days that many, many of us, even those of us without much money, have a fairly decent big screen. And I would venture to say that the experience of watching a Tarantino movie is better at home on my big screen than it would be in a theater where I have to yell at the kids in front of me to get off my lawn and close their phone.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's never any captions in a theater. So if you're half deaf, this is a problem. So
Your food choices are limited,
limited and expensive.
and there's no intermission anymore.
Yeah.
For 3-hour movies. So, I mean, what did Guardians of the Galaxy 3 top out at? Almost 3 hours, right? Give us a friggin' intermission.
Yeah, I remember when they used to do intermissions on some movies.
They did it for the Hateful Eight.
What's that, Rick?
They did it for Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight. Yeah, an intermission for that.
Yeah. I remember watching The Shaggy Dog in the theater when I was really little, and they did an intermission.
My Fair Lady has an intermission.
Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't you know, I don't know about I don't understand this. It's like these movies don't even exist. Um, they're actually, I think, in the minds of the viewer, they exist possibly larger than theater movies. You know?
Well, remember the original Dune and even the remake.
Yeah.
This the planet, the setting, the sets are so huge, they're so massive and so detailed that they are just as important as the rest of the film.
Right.
And they only really work with a great screen and a great sound system. That's not to say you can't enjoy them at home, but there is a certain presence that happens in the movie theater that a lot of us are willing to give up because, frankly, the movie experience is not that fun anymore.
No, it's not. And it used to be one of my favorite things would be to go to a movie theater by myself, like in the middle of a work day.
Yeah.
Since I've worked for myself a long time, and almost the only one in the theater and watch a movie. 100 degrees outside and it's nice and cool in the theater. But you can't find that much anymore. And speaking of sets, Pete, I would argue that you do have a benefit to appreciating those sets and those details watching at home because you can push the pause button.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and these days filmmakers know that you're going to push the pause button. So they know that if they show a newspaper headline with an article, it better be done right.
Yeah,
For
there's
example.
some films that used to do stuff like that. They used to like have newspaper articles like in the background, and nobody really cared about it because it was just a passing. And if the quality is there, you can pause it and zoom in on it. And in some cases, it's just nonsense.
Yeah.
In other cases, it really adds to the experience. It turns out it's relevant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool either way.
If it's nonsense, though, it pulls you out of the story, doesn't it?
Well, if if it's nonsense and it's only on the screen for a second, it's not really.
Yeah, that's true.
We're never meant to pause it.
Mm.
So
Nobody in the 20s and 30s envisioned you pausing that.
no, but we're talking 100 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the reverse, watching some of those 80s, 90s videos where it was like super dark to watch the VHS or whatever. And now watching it on a really high def TV, it's like, oh, you start seeing stuff that you hadn't seen before. And I'm like, now this is a little bit distracting. Can we just go back to the blurry dark video?
Somebody mentioned to me that the original Toy Story is almost unwatchable
Really?
because the technology, the animation and technology are now is just so much farther, light years ahead. Pardon the pun.
And beyond.
And beyond.
Infinity and beyond.
Um, okay, so there's I'm going to say this wrong. Chiro Terra Press.
Chiroptera
Yeah, I knew you'd know how to pronounce it.
or Chiroptera.
Starts with a CH.
Yeah.
Have published Noctuary and the Special Spectral Link by Thomas Ligotti.
Yes.
I'll include that link as well. They expect to ship in August. Consolidated volume of 2 horror collections brought back into print for the first time in over a decade. High quality deluxe Ligotti publication. It's divided into 3 sections following Ligotti's famous introduction, In the Night, in the Dark, a note on the appreciation of weird fiction. So the 3 sections are Studies in Shadow, Discourse and Notebook of the Night, Section 1. Studies in Shadow begins with the Medusa, which follows the protagonist's lifelong obsession. Well, I won't read the whole thing, but this looks really, really cool. And I'm trying to find who did the art for this, but I don't know. But I'll include that link as well because I know there are a lot of Legati fans out there who might want to get this before they run out of copies. So, all right. So, what do you guys have anything to talk about, or do I have to do all the work?
Well, I got a new Lon Chaney book.
New Lon Chaney book. Oh wow!
Neat.
The film that was lost from Blind Bargain. Not around 28, I believe. And it was probably the first movie to have a hunchback assistant for him inside.
Can you put it up again? A Blind Bargain by
Yeah,
Philip
from the
J.
movie,
Riley.
and articles on the movie's lost. They give you the whole history of the film.
Looks really cool, right? How are you feeling?
A little under the weather.
Yeah. Bridget, you want to talk about the Canadian series Slasher?
Yes. So I recently discovered the series because it showed up on Shudder, but then I found out that actually all the seasons are on, I think AMC Plus or Acorn TV, one of the two.
I think it's just on,
Hmm?
I think it's on Netflix too.
Maybe, I don't know, but I found it on Shudder and it's called season 1 on Shudder, but it's actually season 4. It's
Oh,
slasher,
that's good to know.
yeah, slasher colon Ripper. So it's a Canadian anthology series, very much in the vein of American Horror Story. So each season is a lot of the same actors, but it's a different story each season. And so this particular season is called Ripper, and it actually has nothing to do with Jack the Ripper, spoiler, but it does have to do with the slasher killer in Victorian times. And it's in Toronto, Canada, is where it's set. And so I found this particularly amusing because I'm a huge fan of Murdoch Mysteries. I've been watching it forever. And the this series is produced by the same producers and I think one of the directors. And because this particular season was set in the Victorian times, they used all the sets from Murdoch Mysteries. And I just found that amazing for a lot of reasons because the police station is the police station, the morgue is the morgue. Anyways, it was just great. But it's so dark and it's really gory. And I'm like, go Canada, because I don't think we would have had a show like that on our just TV. Um, and having watched Murdoch Mysteries, which is really like cheeky and fun and, not gory at all, and then seeing some of these things happen in the sets of Murdoch Mysteries is like, oh my goodness. Because it was so much darker in tone and literally like the lighting and everything. It was really moody and I don't know. It was so cool. I recommend it. Um, the kills are really gross, so just be forewarned. But they're really great and it's a great story and I have to go back and watch the other seasons now. So
But it doesn't sound like it matters if you watch the seasons in order.
no, because like American Horror Story, each season is a different setting. The actors are playing different people. It's a completely different storyline.
So most of us have Shudder, maybe not
Mhm.
AMC. So we could try out the season on Shudder, which is
Yes.
season 4, really, right?
Yep.
And then if we like it, watch the rest on AMC.
Yep. Because I'll be doing the same thing, and obviously it didn't change anything for me. So
There's a cool article. Speaking of the Boogeyman, there's a cool article on Bloody Disgusting called I'll include it, but why the original short story is Stephen King horror at its finest. I agree with that. It's just classic short story king. And yeah, I remember it really disturbing me when I read it as a kid, as I said a little bit ago. So We've got. Okay, I talked about the Legati thing. Let's see. Kenneth Coyne has a new book out called Hell, Delaware. That's Hell, Delaware. One town's history of horrific happenings. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. By Kenneth W. Coyne, Cain, and it's really good. I liked it. So a little bit different than what he usually does, but check it out. So for those who have asked, we are coming up on 4 weeks since my biopsy was done. So yeah, what can you do, right? Well, I'm lucky enough to have a Patreon, who's also a pathologist. So she's answered a lot of questions for me. Yesterday, I realized how long it's been, again, and asked her if that was normal, if anything could be normal in this. And she said, actually, no, it's not. It's pretty unusual. So I don't know. For those who don't know, for those who gave to my GoFundMe, I really appreciate it. For those who don't know, I got a biopsy done on my neck. There's a mass in my neck that's about as big as my thyroid, and they're trying to determine whether it's cancerous or benign. And either way, it's large enough that it's gonna have to come out. So not to bring everybody down, but I know a lot of people have sent me emails and asked me, so I said I would talk about it on this episode. So next week, if I can find it. Yeah, I wanted to tell everybody what's coming up. We've got next week, we got Brian Evanson. And then the week after that, we've got Tal Manir, if I'm saying their last name right. And this is one of the creators of Dracula Daily. So, and then the week after that, Paul Tremblay with his new book. What did I do with it? The Beast You Are, his latest collection. So, which is really good. Yeah. So, are you guys caught up on your Dracula Daily? No.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we're going to be not getting any for a while, if I remember right.
There's a gap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, May 31st was the latest one. And then I think the next one is like June 17th or something, isn't it? So for the listeners, you got plenty of time to get caught up. So a bit of an unusual episode. It's just what, 1, 2, 3, 4 of us. At least it's 4. I thought it was going to be 3. DeBronzo's doing a family day, and nobody else could make it.
And it's Matt's birthday.
That's right. That's why Matt's not here. Happy birthday. Happy 75th birthday, Matt Carpenter.
Is he really 75?
I think he's a little older than that, but I just wanted to go low. No, I think he's like 63 or 64.
Okay. Don't do that to me.
You actually thought he was 75?
I don't
I was
know
like,
anymore.
He's
oh.
in great. He's really in great shape for mid-60s, though. So
Danny Elfman just turned 70 yesterday.
I
was
know,
like,
right?
really older than Matt.
John Carpenter's what, like 93, 94?
I don't think he's that old.
Glitch.
Did you, what was it, a couple of years ago that, what was it, IMDb, announced, if he was still alive, it was be his birthday. And like, you had to, text him and say, hey, despite my appearance, I'm still alive.
Oh my gosh.
Well, about a month ago, we did a Patreon podcast with Michael Sisko about a few things, but especially about his new book, Pest. And one of the things it's about, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read it yet, but about a guy who turns into a yak. And if you've read Michael Sisko, you know that this book is a lot deeper than it sounds with that description. But we were laughing about it while we were talking about it. And a listener sent me this for a t-shirt. I'm going to put it in the T Public t-shirt store. So can you guys see that?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Yak Life on a t-shirt. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's just as deep as the rest of his books. I published a book of his recently in the last year called Ethics, and that one's really good as well. So just go to Amazon, type in Ethics, Michael Sisko, and pick it up on Kindle or print. That's about all I got. You guys got anything you want to talk about? It's going to be a short one today.
There are
No?
things I want to tell you guys that I don't think are show appropriate.
What?
Like,
There's something that's not appropriate for our show?
all right, so
You got to get closer, I think.
all right, so last night, the kids, we're in New York City, like one of the food meccas of the world, and the kids are like, "Will you go get us McDonald's?" They're like, "All right." So our hotel is like a block and a half from the New York Public Library. So, and then the McDonald's is just on the other side of the New York Public Library. So we locked down, and the whole front of the New York Public Library is covered with candles and flowers. There's people standing at the bottom waiting for something. I was like, oh, it must be a wedding.
Really?
So we go, we get our food, we're coming back, and sure enough, the bride and her groom are coming down the steps. And my wife is paused, and she's like looking at the scene, and we're across the street, and there's a guy right in front of us, just takes his pants off and starts peeing in the bushes.
What?
Yeah.
Wow,
Welcome to New York
read the
City.
scene, buddy. Read the room.
This kind of thing doesn't happen in West Palm Beach, by God.
No. And so there was that. And then yesterday we were in Chelsea, and I made the mistake of engaging with the crazy woman. She said hi, and I said hi back, and then she said, "Look, there's a hole." It's like God comes out of that hole and talks to me. I'm like,
wow, you really got the NYC experience.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They did not break you in easy.
And then she just started like going off, And then yeah. And then I accidentally wandered into the Anthroposophy spiritual library bookstore. And they're just really, really focused on their Messiah. And that's okay. That's all the books they have. It's just one guy's writings.
Have you, and you're used to the West Palm Beach scene.
But
So
I'm used to the South Florida scene, yeah.
Yeah. You've read the Archie McNally series, right? Or some of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm about to start it over just because sometimes you need something fun and light,
It's Sanders.
Lawrence Sanders,
Archie,
yeah. Yeah. And but every time I read one of those books or glance at one of those books in my library, I think of you because that's where it's set.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Travis McGee stuff is not far from where I am either.
Well, you know what? Travis McGee's still in Cedar Key. That's what old John McDonald said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jimmy Buffett song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
I also yesterday I visited the site where the Nero Wolf house should be. And took a picture with the marker.
Should be.
Yeah, well, because he actually there's several. He gives several addresses in the books.
Oh,
He moves
okay.
around a bunch, but yeah, somebody the wolf pack has an official location of where it should be, and there's a brownstone there, but it doesn't look it. It's been modernized, so.
So I have a question for you guys. I think all of you are going to tell me yes, but have you guys seen the Black Mirror TV series?
Yes.
I haven't.
You haven't, right? Have you, Bridget?
Seen what series?
Black Mirror.
Oh, Black Mirror. Yes. Sorry, I just heard black. I didn't hear the other part.
Oh,
Yeah, I've
it,
seen a
is my
bit of it.
volume high enough? No?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Um, you guys think I'd like that? I haven't seen any of them.
Mm. The ones I've seen, I really like. And
Yeah,
of course, being a Star Trek fan, I thought the Star Trek episode was pretty hilarious.
There's a
yeah,
Dark
Star
but
Trek
hilarious.
episode in
there's
Black
Well, it's
Mirror.
not officially a Star Trek episode, but it's a fan, that kind of lives in an alternate reality of his making as a fan.
Well, that's interesting because I was looking up alternate, or as I was looking up simulated realities, um, TV shows and movies, to see if there's any that I've missed. One of my favorites is The 13th Floor.
Yeah, that's a great.
yeah.
In the article that I read that included that, they gave away the spoiler in the paragraph. I was just flabbergasted. So you guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what it is.
There's actually a really good episode of Black Mirror that riffs on that same idea.
Well, it I didn't read about them because I didn't want to know any spoilers, but it listed 3 Black Mirror episodes that have that theme, simulated reality. So I thought I'd check them out
You
later
should.
today.
They're really good.
Yeah. So they do all kinds of different sci-fi horror themes, or is it just sci-fi?
No, there's some horrific episodes too.
Okay.
Um, there's a couple episodes I would not watch with children around.
I don't have any children around, so
Yeah, I would not watch with my wife around either.
the listeners might. Um, okay. I'll check it out. Let's see if there was anything else no, I think that's it. So everybody, sorry for the short episode, and I almost didn't do an episode today, but I'm glad I did because of the surprise that Pete's over at Rick's house. I'm not feeling that great, but uh, we didn't have an episode last Sunday, and like I said, I almost didn't do one today because we're missing quite a few people. But I always like seeing you guys, and for the audience, I hope you've enjoyed it. We're gonna do this week. We're gonna have another deep background episode for the Patreons, and another Nadia Bulkin movie reviews episode, which that's really popular with the Patreons. So if you're not a Patreon, you can get all of that at the bottom level at $5 a month. Just search for Lovecraft Easing Patreon, or just patreon.com/Lovecraft Easing. So, if it wasn't for the patrons, I wouldn't be able to do this show anymore. Full stop, quite literally. So thanks for keeping me going, guys. And then at the upper levels, there's a lot more swag and cool things that you can get. For the $10 and up folks, we are going to do a hangout this Thursday. You would have gotten the email already from a couple days ago, but for those who missed it, we're going to do a hangout this Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I know what I forgot. I forgot to email you guys about it.
Yeah.
Which is important.
I might be able to make that.
Sorry?
I might make that.
Oh, that's good. Well, what the patrons have told me is that it seems like about 50% of them Friday night's the best night, and vice versa for Thursday night. So for those who don't know, the Patreon Hangouts is just what it sounds like. The Patreons at the $10 and up level can hang out with us once or twice a month in Zoom. It's not recorded or anything. And
I get to say all the stuff that I wouldn't say on public.
that's exactly right. Alan Smolling, one of my patrons, described it as a mini Necronomicon. Probably depends on the episode if it's a mini Necronomicon or not, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. So thanks for keeping me in business, guys. Sorry this one's short, but like I said, I almost didn't do one, but I'm glad I did. Really good to see you, Pete and Rick and Bridget.
Yeah.
It's really cool to look over at Rick and Pete's there too. How's the weather up there, by the way?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a little cooler than West Palm Beach. It was
Yeah, what
53 this morning.
53? Oh, I'd love that. That'd be great. Did you enjoy the Dallas weather when you were here, Bridget?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. We loved it.
Why is it cold in Virginia?
Um, it's been kind of cool. We've had a couple of hot days, but for the most part, it's been in the 60s and 70s. So,
Oh, well,
but
I'd
it was
love
also
that.
because we used to live in Texas, for a few years, and so it was just the nostalgia of being there in that weather as well.
Yeah, I get that. That's the same with me with the fall and winter weather in Iowa. Yeah. It's been close to 90 every day for a while now and muggy. So, yeah. Anyway, um, that's all I've got. And as I said, next week, Brian Evanson. We're not gonna talk about any particular book of his, just his his uh his body of work and what he's got coming up next and everything. Haven't had him on the show before, so I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, thanks guys for listening. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.